And it looks like we are live. Good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait a little bit. I can see a lot of people in the waiting room here, which is really fun. We're just going to wait for a few more people to trickle in here. Hi, welcome to our webinar this morning. We're going to go through some housekeeping, introductions, agenda. But first, I want to know, where are you from? Well, I'm from Canada. So Canadians. And John, where are you from?
I am from Indianapolis. Originally Chicago, but I live in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So quite away from the Canada land.
Yes. I see in here we've got Ohio, we've got Evansville, Colorado. We're here to talk about insurance sales. So I'm going to guess, I don't know, you would know better than I, even in terms of like where kind of those storm areas are.
I know a little bit. I saw Evansville, you said?
Yep.
That's who's your country? Let's go.
Okay, well, this is fun. Well, welcome, everyone.
See if we get in from West Virginia. They got smashed last night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. West Virginia, anyone? Okay, well, we're going to get into it. So first of all, our last panel that we had, our last webinar, was on our peak performance report. If you do not know what this is, it is a report that we put together every year. It's statistically relevant information. We survey roofers, we survey homeowners, and we get a feel for kind of like where you can stand in different areas of your business. John actually has been a really great advocate for this.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would not have it.
It's like 156 pages of information.
Straight data.
Yeah.
Like that will grow your business.
Yes. So if you haven't already, scan this QR code. I'm going to move on through, but scan this if you can. We'll leave a link as well. Amazing. A great report. Yes, Dave. Dave is 3 steps ahead. Dave has this. Okay. I'm going to go over our agenda a little bit, and then I'm going to make us big on the screen so you can see our faces better. But actually, we're going to do some introductions. We're going to talk about why we're really excited to have you here, some outcomes that we really want this to be really valuable for you. We're going to talk about why supplementing is important, some speed to money, accelerating your sales and revenue cycle, and then using JobNimbus and XBuild to streamline this process, and then just a bit about the data you need to have. Now, in this platform, there is a question tab at the bottom. This guy is here to answer your questions. I will do what I can, but I am not the subject matter expert here. So if you have questions, pop them in down at the bottom. You'll see there's the chat, there's questions. There are also a couple links. We'll go into introductions, but you'll see a link there to XBuild. We'll talk more about that later. And there's a link to get a free report. So let's just do some introductions. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I'm John. First off, thank you.
You're welcome.
To JobNimbus, thank you, Sancha, for letting me be a part of this and letting us talk a little bit about the future in construction and supplementing specifically. This is a massive, massive deal for contractors, and so thank you guys for making this a reality.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, anytime. I'm always welcome here in Salt Lake, I think.
You are always welcome.
I got
you
the
got the sweater.
It's
limited edition.
This sweater is the best sweater of all the sweaters. So just going to say that.
And it's not publicly available. This is a very special thing.
This is a special one. So, but yeah, thank you for making this real. And my name's John Dye. I'm a contractor. I'm a 5th generation contractor, and I'm here today to talk about XBuild, but really to talk about supplementing, which has been a big part of my career since 2008, 2009. Coming from a contractor background, we started in roofing in 2000, and I started to supplement because before then, there was really no supplementing. Insurance companies paid appropriately, I'll say.
Okay.
It was a different world in 2000 till about 2008 was when I started selling, and I started realizing real quick that insurance companies weren't paying for the things that we were doing, and that's a big problem as for your contractor. The first rule, the most important rule in construction, this was taught to me by my dad, who learned from his dad, was this isn't a hobby. We don't do this just for fun. You do this to make money, and you don't work for free. And the way I viewed it was we were installing things on roofs that I knew were getting installed, and based on these estimates that the insurance companies were providing, I noticed that things started to go away. Drip edge, ice and water shield, starter, ridge cap, there were all kinds of things that were being moved around, and I was like, how do we get this paid for? And so I used to have to fax estimates in. I started on an Excel spreadsheet, and writing
And if you're
things
using
up.
an Excel spreadsheet right now, let's talk.
I'm going to get burned right now, I feel like.
And there's no shame in it. That's where we start. And then you can build and grow from there.
Yeah. So,
what are you doing now?
So I use Xactimate now, but I also use Outlook, so I'm going to get burned for this one. I feel like whenever I'm around tech people and they realize I use Outlook, they just are like, what is wrong with you?
Oh, really?
They're like, you use Alta Vista? Like, what's wrong? So, but no, I used spreadsheets, and that's how I would create estimates, and I would have to fax them into insurance companies. And then I started using another tool, an estimating tool that was new to the marketplace at the time. And then ultimately, I moved into Xactimate. An adjuster told me one day, you can actually use Xactimate yourself and write this up. And I was like, I didn't know that. So I downloaded it, kind of hacked it because I had like a sample version. I didn't want to pay like whatever it cost at the time. It was several $100s for Xactimate back then. I had a CD version of it.
Yeah.
And I'd put it in my computer. And then I'd print off the estimates and fax them in and get them approved. And that was how I started supplementing. I started doing it for other contractors. And now there's a whole industry around supplementing. Worked with Balance Claims for a while. Was one of the partners there. We
and
sold
don't give
that.
away all the secrets about what we're going to talk about today.
I'm not gonna. I won't give it all away. But we run a little social media brand called American Contractor Show, and from there I met these dudes out of California that were Silicon Valley tech entrepreneurs and founders of crazy
Someone
stuff.
says a nerd.
Total nerd. I'm a total nerd. They're probably making fun of me for Outlook still. So I met these guys, and they happened to be really big in AI, and AI is obviously this new thing, and showed me some of the things that they were working on, and didn't have any clue about roofing really. They were just really big about learning how to train AI models, and way more knowledgeable than me about that stuff, and I was able to help them connect those dots, and now we've done some really cool stuff, and I'll show you guys today, but it's really incredible, and it's stuff that for a lot of people, it's unfathomable. We tried to do this a few years ago when I was with Balance. We invested some money and some technology to try to accomplish a lot of the stuff that we've now accomplished at XBuild, and I look at it and I'm amazed at the speed and the accuracy and how quickly AI can learn things and turn that into reality. It's unreal, and if you get deep into it, it's a whole rabbit hole, and I'm still learning, but I'm really excited about it because it's got so much potential for what it can do for our industry and all types of industries. And my ultimate goal is that tradespeople get the respect they deserve. I'm a tradesperson believer. I believe in the creativity and the coolness that comes with trades and building cool stuff, and seeing how AI is helping that now is phenomenal. But ultimately, though, I'm also a big believer that contractors shouldn't work for free. And this is what supplementing really is about. And then I also speed to money, all that other stuff. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. It's going to be fun.
Well, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
This little social media brand,
We have a
American
little
Contractor Show,
social media
like
brand.
1.7 million subscribers. Just
Something
little.
like that.
My name's Sancha. I am the customer marketing manager here at JobNimbus. I come from my first job out of high school was actually at a roofing company, and I got to work my way through a number of different roles. Estimating and creating work orders was one of them, and then moved into production management as well. And 10 years of marketing, sales and marketing, led me to Sumo Quote, actually, which has now been acquired by JobNimbus. And I wish that tech existed when I worked at a roofing company, because it would have saved me so much time. But it's a very full circle, amazing thing for me to be here, and I care deeply about this industry. And so I get to hang out with John, and I just get to have kind of these fun conversations, and hopefully we can bring some value to you today. So I'm just going to dive in really quickly into some of the outcomes that we would like to, for you guys to take away today, and then we're going to dive right in. So we're grateful for you for being here. It's an hour out of your day, and we're really grateful. So we'd love for you to leave with a clear understanding of the insurance process and how it relates to roofing sales, a blueprint that you can use to identify insurance work success for your business, and then how to use AI to produce the best possible insurance estimate designed to protect your margins. So if any of these three things are it for you, we hope that this is what you leave with today. Just a check-in. We just want to check in here. I see lots of people in the chat. This is really fun. We just have a question. We're curious. We want to know, how long is your insurance job cycle from initial contact to final payment? And how much money does insurance typically leave off the table in insurance jobs for you? We'd love to know. Drop it in the chat, and I can relay this over. We're just really curious about what your experience is in terms of, because we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this process, that speed to money. 60 days on average, someone says. How does that? You're like...
It varies, but yeah. I mean,
okay. Someone says 30. It usually takes 2 months. 120 days, 4 weeks. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, 2 to 3 months. Yep. 2 months. 2 months.
And this is for a job that takes a day to build.
Yeah. And then someone said, so for insurance leaving off the table, we've got $600 to $8,000.
Yeah.
An average of at least 5K, 45 days. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. With insurance, a few months sometimes.
And that number has grown significantly. I mean, we talk about that real quick, because I don't think it's part of our presentation today, but I'll just share this anyways.
And my job here is to like reel him in.
Yeah. Good
So
luck.
if I'm like, hey.
Like, I think a few years ago, our average supplement amount was around $2,500-ish, and it has increased drastically. I've noticed over the last, especially this last year, we've been tracking it internally, and we're seeing like $5,600 now on average, which is absurd to me that there's that much money being left off the table. But then I guess everything has changed price-wise in the last 3 or 4 years.
We have 50 to 150 per square, typically 8K, depends if mortgage gets involved.
Yeah.
A lot of that. So yeah, okay. Thank you for contributing, you guys. We'll keep taking it. This is just helpful for us to know.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm gonna switch over here and we can dive in. I'll make this big. There you go.
Cool. We'll start with this slide, and this is kind of where I like to start because this is a funny observation here, and this is where a lot of contractors, there's some misconceptions around supplementing in general, but this is Steve Badger, and I think he posted this maybe a year or two ago, and I have alerts. This is a LinkedIn post he does. He's a big LinkedIn guy, and a lot of these attorneys, especially on the insurance side, are big time LinkedIn guys, and they're pretty fun to follow. So I have alerts that every time Steve posts anything on LinkedIn or a few other guys, I get alerted, so I always read his stuff. But this one was interesting because it directly related to supplementing. But this is what the insurance companies think about supplementing. And so they basically said, everyone knows how I feel about supplement companies. I don't like them at all. I tell my clients they have no obligation to speak with them, his clients being insurance companies. Most are professional estimate writers who juice up a contractor's previously agreed estimate with additional creative line items. They then call the insurance company pretending to be the contractor who did the work and try to increase the claim value, and they do this on a contingency fee. They take a percentage of the increase in claim value, meaning that the more juice they can squeeze from the insurance company, the more money that they make. So that ain't right. With that said, though, he says, I 100% support a real brick and mortar contractor who actually did the work asking to be paid for supplemental items that it completed in performing the work. Those should always be considered and when the work was done and necessary and completed, but that's entirely different than these supplement companies whose sole objective is to juice up a claim for their own financial gain through creative estimate writing. And so we're going to talk a lot about that today, and this is where we get into understanding what insurance really is. And I tend to have a little bit of a different approach when it comes to supplementing, when it comes to the mindset around supplementing. A lot of contractors get really, really aggressive when it comes to insurance companies and how they operate. I was an adjuster at one point. I ran several hundred claims in Florida after Hurricane Irma, and it kind of gave me a different perspective into that side of the industry, and it taught me a lot about what they think about supplementing and how it works. But I also learned about how this is all structured from an insurance perspective. And so I always start with this statement, and this is kind of an understanding of this is a B2B transaction. A lot of times insurance sales is the person that's actually paying you typically is an insurance company, and so you have to treat this completely different. And if you know anything about B2B sales, it's a whole different ballgame. For those of you that do commercial, you probably understand this. It's relationship driven. It's understanding the other party's needs and what they need in order to accomplish their goals. And that's what leads to a nice transaction. And so when I go through this stuff, I started to understand it as an adjuster. because the first time I wrote claims, I wrote my first 5 estimates as an adjuster, and I thought, there's no way anyone's going to ever supplement these. It was an emergency license right after Irma, and so they just handed me like 300 claims and said, go to work. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I'll go do it. I've been on enough adjuster meetings where I should know how to inspect a roof. So I go out, I start taking photos, I get measurements, and I write up these estimates, and they are the best estimates that have ever been written, okay? Not trying to. Anyway, so I write these estimates, I send them in. I get an email back from the desk adjuster, from my boss essentially. And he says, hey, he's like, I got your estimates, you need to rewrite them. And I'm like, rewrite them? Why would I rewrite them? They include everything that I know a contractor is going to need to get this job done. I'm the adjuster on this job. I should be able to write these correctly. I go down this whole list. He goes, have you not looked at the guidelines, is what he said. And I said, what in the world is a guideline? I didn't have a clue what a guideline was. He goes, well, we sent you an email, and it has a bunch of PDFs in it. And in that PDF, there are guidelines as to what you're supposed to pay depending on the carrier. I worked for 3 carriers at the time. I was an independent. And the firm I was with had these contracts with these carriers, so they had 3 different sets of guidelines. Well, I'm not very good at opening my emails, so I didn't see those. So I went back and looked through them and realized that these guidelines were basically what I could and couldn't pay for on a job. And my options as an adjuster were basically, you write it according to guidelines, or we're basically not going to give you any work. And we have to rewrite your stuff anyways and pay someone else to do it, so you're not going to get paid. And it was like this whole big thing. And you're an independent contractor. I've already spent thousands of dollars on Airbnbs at that point, fuel, all this time. I'd already left, gone to Florida. I was out there doing stuff very inefficiently at the moment because I had no idea what I was doing. So all these things that, I ended up in the back of my head, and he's like, listen, John, you have to write your stuff this way. You got to set your macros accordingly. When you see roofs, this is how you have to write it. And I fought it, but I ultimately had to do it the way they did it. And I did it blindly. Most adjusters and most contractors have no idea why these guidelines are in place. But remember, this is a B2B transaction. I think a lot of people forget that insurance companies are businesses. I mean, contractors, you guys are businesses as well. There's something called profit, there's margin, you got stakeholders involved, and with you're an insurance company, you have a whole different set of stakeholders. You're talking tons of regulation, government checking in on everything that you do. You have shareholders, you've got all these, people that are investors in the company that are watching everything. They cannot just blow money. And so a few years later, I'm teaching classes, doing my Art of the Supplement at the time, and I started to see that insurance companies were sending people to my classes. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. Why am I getting these people that come with insurance company email addresses? And so finally, after one of the classes, and I kind of figured out who they were during class, and I pulled one of them aside and said, hey man, I'm like, just curious, what'd you think of the class? I'm ultimately trying to figure out why are you here, right? And come to find out, they were sending these guys that were basically SIU department people. And I didn't know what SIU meant, but what it stands for is Special Investigative Unit. And they are former FBI agents, former law enforcement, that now work for insurance companies, and I didn't know this, but they're kind of required by law in some states that they have to have these SIU departments. And they're basically looking for fraud. They're looking for insurer side fraud, so homeowners, auto owners, whoever's trying to commit fraud. They're trying to protect the interests of the insurance companies, and that's what they're there for. So he was really kind. He said, no, it was a great class, because I don't teach people how to commit fraud. I teach people how to get paid for what they do. And so he said, no, actually, I like the class. And so we got to talking. Through the course of this conversation, I start to learn what insurance companies consider fraud and what these guys are actually doing. And so I want to take just a minute, and I want us to put ourselves in the mindset of an insurance company for a second. We're not going to be the desk adjuster yet. But
okay,
you can,
not yet.
we will in a second. But we want to put ourselves in the mindset of an insurance company. Okay, you're the CEO of an insurance company now. You're not a roofer. You're an insurer. Your job is to pay out claims out of the company reserves if they're legitimate. Right? Someone has to investigate if this claim is legitimate and what actually should be paid. Now, SIU's going out and they're looking at jobs that contractors do. Okay, they're checking in, they're looking at what's going on, they're pulling data sets. So let's pretend that they pull a data set, and I've worked tens of thousands of claims in my career. We all know that every now and again there's a contractor that doesn't replace the drip edge. or there's a contractor that reuses a step flashing, or doesn't replace the ice and water shield, or uses 3-tab shingles for ridge cap, or for starter. I mean, there's a million different ways, and then it goes into the waste. And they have an example of this occurring within the industry. They know that there are contractors, and they might be unscrupulous, but they're doing this stuff, and they're doing it maybe not in large numbers, but it exists. If you have that type of evidence, and you're the CEO of an insurance company, and you're over the claims team, and you're supposed to decide what gets paid and what doesn't get paid, would you just blank check write for everything that has to be there, or are you going to set your guidelines accordingly as a bare minimum that you know based on industry standards, or at least industry practices, may not be best practices, but some practices where there are some contractors that don't do everything the right way? Absolutely you would. You would not be paying those claims out with all those accessories and all those line items associated in every single claim unless it's actually required. And that's what Steve was referring to. What's actually required and what are you actually doing? And so I always try to say, okay, like if we really want the best possible results, we have to look at it through the lens of what the insurance company is doing and why they're doing it. What they're doing is simply protecting their margin. They're protecting their profit. They're making sure that if they get audited, they're not going to be like, well, we just decided, we know we have evidence that this doesn't happen, but we were like, well, we're just going to pay it anyways on every single claim up front, and not require someone to come back and say, hey, this is it. So when I look at the initial estimate that an insurance company provides, I always say that is a starting point. That is just opening coverage to get things moving along. From there, the burden of proof is off their hands because they've given an estimate. They said, hey, look, in good faith, we don't know what contractor you've chosen, Ms. Jones. We don't know what's going on, but here's an estimate to get this project started. We're opening coverage. We're agreeing to pay for this project. We're accepting the liability. Here's your initial estimate. Okay? Now it's up to the contractor to then provide back to that carrier evidence, supporting information, the correct estimate that it should take as the professional that does that, and basically put their name on it and say, here's what I'm going to do on this job, or here's what I've already done on this job. Because I think there's two schools of thought when it comes to post or pre-production, and we're not going to get into that today. But
if you have questions,
we can totally talk about that.
And if we have time. So
yes.
We might have to.
We might have to, or we can schedule a time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, though, the burden of proof falls on you. So we're going to play a game, and it's called You're the Desk Adjuster, okay? And this is like my cheesy.
We're going to take like 5 minutes. We're going to do this in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Can we do it in 5 minutes?
Yeah, we will do our best. So I'm going to give you guys some stuff. You guys are going to be the desk adjusters. You guys are going to tell us in the chat if you would put your job on the line. So contractor gives this out to the adjuster. Now the adjuster's looking at this. Remember, adjusters, especially desk adjusters, probably have never set foot on a roof. Their job is to determine whether or not they should issue payment accordingly.
For this.
Okay? So you're the desk adjuster, your job's on the line, you get this, you get no photos, you get nothing other than this estimate from the contractor, and he says, this is what it takes to replace this roof, pay me my money, okay? And you get hundreds of these a week from contractors, okay? And your job is to determine if this is an appropriate payment. Would you, as the desk adjuster, just no knowledge of this contractor, you just get this estimate, would you actually pay it?
Answer in the chat.
Yeah, answer in the chat.
We want to see. I see people typing.
I see typing. I'm sure there's typing.
No, need photos.
Need photos. What else you need?
No, 19 turtle vents.
19 turtle vents. We need photos of those 19 turtle vents.
No. No.
All right, so you're
No,
not going to
just
pay
lots
this,
of
right?
no's.
Yeah, right? Like you're the desk
No,
adjuster.
of course not. Lol.
Okay. So we've decided this one's going to require a lot more data, so they're going to send it back to the
why
contractor.
You need these items
yeah,
and
there's got to be
support.
reasons, there's got to be all kinds of things.
Vents removed with shingles, LOL.
So all this has to go back to the contractor, and that contractor's going to rewrite it. Think about that. Now you've just added 2 more weeks to your sales cycle probably, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Okay, here we go.
All right, this one's a little better. We've got something bold here for some reason, right? We don't know why, but it's bolded. We've got another roof vent. They bolded it. This one's got 18.
Someone said already called SIU.
They already called SIU. This one they bolded it. They got 18, which by the way, these are actually the same houses. So yeah, so it's just different estimates for different contracts on the same exact property, okay? This one they've got starter They've got step flashing, chimney, like some.
Need to know the differences and why.
Need to know why, right? Like there's got to be a reason. I'm not going to pay this. We're desk adjusters right now, right? Our job is to say no because we need justification.
No explanations.
No explanations. You can't just pay for it. All right, next one. Now, this one's fun. This one comes from a different system. Remember, you're an adjuster. You don't know anything about construction. You kind of know Xactimate and maybe Symbility, but you don't, outside of that, you have no idea. So you get this estimate and you're like, looking at this one, right? There's a lot of questions here.
Someone says, where is your documentation?
Yeah, what is a 2021 landfill fee, which this is obviously an old estimate. And the other one that's on here that's interesting is if I'm the desk adjuster, I'm wondering what is Norwestco drip edge? Why is that? Is that like a special drip edge for Norwestco? Like
Don't ask me.
I don't exactly. Like we're adjusters. We don't know what's felt buster underlayment.
Again, no documentation or photos.
No,
nope. Is this on a napkin?
We're not paying that one, right? Okay.
Again, why and what is this?
So at the end of the day, if we look at all that stuff, what is the biggest thing that's lacking off of that and that we really define supplementing by? There's one word I always like to use, and I'm going to see if anyone can guess it. How do we define supplementing in one word?
Documentation.
Documentation's a good one. Proof's a good one. Substantiation.
We've got some people typing.
Someone may have taken my class and say, I heard justification. That's a good one.
Yeah. Post invoice. Yeah. I feel like you
at the root of all of that, there's one word that just is the most basic of terms you can use for what you're actually doing when you supplement, and it's communication. Those that can communicate the best and most efficiently, remember, communication is all about speaking and communicating thoughts and ideas and concepts to another person. And when you communicate with someone, like if someone walked in here that spoke Spanish, I could communicate with them all day because I speak Spanish. You speak Canadian. So you're not going to be able to communicate with a Spanish person, very likely. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if you speak Spanish, so. And
a little bit of French.
You can speak with French because you're Canadian. So,
yes.
But I can speak with them. So, because I speak their language.
Yeah.
If you're going to communicate effectively to an insurance company, you got to speak insurance. What does insurance speak? They speak justification. They speak documentation. They speak Xactimate. They speak Symbility. Those are the languages they speak. If you want to get to your result as quickly as you can, communicate better than your competition and you will get better results. And so I always say this is the most important piece of this. So let's go to the next slide here. So let's pretend that you're the adjuster. Now you get this estimate from a contractor. Contractor sends you this. They've got a cover page. Doesn't that look kind of familiar to you?
Yes, very familiar.
So, I say coming from the sumo quote world, it's got a really cool cover page. It's got a summary page. The contractor's giving you an Xactimate, and we can't really see it in here, and I can give you guys this Xactimate later, but this one has...
Someone says, wow, that's a nice one.
That's a nice one. It's got adjusted items. It's got supplement items. It's broken down. It has what we call F9 notes, if you know a little bit about Xactimates, where you got these little notations underneath the line items as to why you're asking for them. Go to the next page. If you get this packet, this full packet, you would also get an eagle view from this contractor, measurements. You're getting code documentation, weather data. Okay, now you're the adjuster. You're getting this from a contractor. Okay, what's the next one? You're getting photos with notations and different things. They're all laid out in a very logical order. Are you going to pay for that estimate?
People say, yes, yes, I love this template. Yes, yes, yes. Allstate says no.
Allstate says no, of course.
Already paid it out. Yes, indeed. I would approve what has been supported by the evidence that has been submitted. More likely to yes. Still don't see the hail damage bird poop. Absolutely.
Thank you, whoever that adjuster that snuck in here said. No, this is a lot easier to get approved. Now, what's cool about this estimate that I'm showing you right now, this is what an XBuild report is. And this estimate was generated 100% by AI. Just based on photos from the contractor, measurements, a pre-existing loss. The AI goes and writes this up, turns it into a report, gives this to the contractor and says, here you go, take this to the insurance company. That, and by the way, we can write those in as little as 20 minutes now. Sometimes they take longer, it depends, but we had one get turned around in 20 minutes. We just ran some new models. We can run one of those now in like 12 minutes, but we're gonna release that in probably 30 days. But it's getting faster and faster. But AI is actually taking that information, writing that estimate, taking the photos, analyzing them, and like notating them, putting them in a logical order, comparing the building codes, writing a new Xactimate, putting it all into one report, and then giving it back to the contractor and saying, here you go. Here's your new estimate. You can now go to the insurance company with something that makes your company look good. You're putting your name on it. You're proud of it. And what I love about AI, and this is where people get a little bit bent out of shape. You can set parameters within the system to say, hey, like always include this, and this, like your little company recipe. But by default, AI is agnostic. AI sees what it sees. It's comparing facts and then writing an estimate based on actual facts, not on actual opinions or what the insurance company says, what the contract. It's like, hey, look, this is what it should be based on building codes and all these different things. And so it's a really, really powerful way to view estimating when you look at it through the lens of AI, is because it's not going to take human subjectiveness into account. It's going to say, we're not trying to game a system. We're giving you what it should be. Now, we took about 4,000 reports to build that entire AI logic, and it's getting better every day. Like there's still every now and again I'll catch something. We're about 96% accurate, but for the amount of time you save, and you get an ESX file, you can go and edit it yourself. You get all these different pieces that you can change around, but to get something that accurate, that quickly, with just some very small input, like now you're talking a whole different game changer. And this is why this stuff excites me, because this would have taken me hours to build out. Even using a tool, like it still would take forever.
What is this? How much does it cost? I'm sold.
The sorcery.
So just so everyone knows, we will have a QR code at the end. We'll talk a little bit about that. You can get your first free report.
Just curious, what would you guys pay for that report?
Oh, interesting. Good question. Feel free to drop
Yeah,
that
just
in.
tell us what. Now someone's going to know what it costs, and they're going to be like, it costs this
XBuild is
much.
awesome. Used it before. Someone said 150.
150 bucks. Yeah, I mean it runs
250.
$250?
$10. 150.
$10, of course. There's always a $10. Like it costs nothing to train algorithms to do this. 450 bucks. All right, just for reference, it costs 99 bucks.
Yes,
okay?
and there is a link.
I'll give you guys a free one today for being here.
There's a link below.
In fact, I'll give you 2 free ones for being here. So.
Well, you heard it here, and
I
there
just
is a
threw it out
recording.
there.
So
I'll give you an extra one. So we're tracking them with that cool UTM link. So I can go in and throw another free one in your account if you sign up today. But anyways, that's what XBuild does. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Oh, and Christy, can you drop that question in the questions box? I just don't want to lose it in the chat, but that's a really good one. If you can do that, we'll keep moving on through.
All right, yeah, let's keep moving. So remember we talked a little bit about cycles. And we're going to talk about streamlined process. We talked about sales cycle. Sales cycle to me is a really big deal. I started a roofing company a few years ago after Balance, and owned it for about a year and a half. And then we sold it to some investors in Indianapolis. And we built it. But when I started my roofing company, obviously I went in with a little bit of knowledge, and I studied a lot of companies over the last few years. I've worked with thousands of contractors and tried to pick out some of the best. And sales cycle to me is the most critical piece of your business. If you're not tracking your sales cycles and trying to figure out how to make them more efficient, get to your money faster, this is like important, because that increases your capacity without increasing people, essentially, right? Because you can do more jobs if you can move faster. People only have so much capacity. So anyways, we did an exercise in my office. I had my cousin with me, and I said, hey dude, like we're gonna map out what a sales cycle looks like for roofing. We're building a roofing company. This is very important. We want to know how fast we can turn around money. And so we did one for retail, and using financing, which JobNimbus has great financing tools. You can get in there, you can digital payments, all the different things that you can implement. You can theoretically, if you're putting a roof on someone's house and they bought a roof from me today, like if someone called today and said, I need a roof like right away, I could put a roof on their house tomorrow. Be real, like you guys all know this, like I could make some calls, pull some strings, get a crew out there, we can put a roof on your house tomorrow. And I could probably be paid, what's tomorrow, Thursday or Wednesday? I could be paid by Friday, right? Sales cycle could be as short as 3 or 4 days, and that's if I'm using financing. If they're paying cash, I could have a roof on their house tomorrow, in and out of there, give me your credit card, let's go, right? And we're paid. Money's in my bank account. When it comes to insurance, though, it's a different process. So we focus heavily on retail because of this one thing. I didn't want to go through the process, but we still had to do the exercise. So let me walk you guys through this exercise that we did.
Sure. And also someone said, I've already used my free report. Can I have another one? And someone said, John's cool. He'll give it to you.
Yeah, let me know who they are. I'll make it work. Okay, So this is the sales cycle that this is like our sales process that we drew up. So this is what, like the retail one was like a straight line, okay? Like step, 5 steps, you got a new roof, right? This is what the sales cycle looks like when you're doing insurance. So day 1, your lead comes in. Day 3, you go out and inspect the roof. Now, there might be some variances in some of this stuff, but let's just talk typical, okay? Day 4, you file the claim. You wait a couple weeks for the adjuster to come out. You're at day 18. Then finally, the insurance paperwork comes in. You're already 25 days into this process, okay? This is just one roof. It is painful. And then you start what typically contractors do. They start the supplement process. And then they start that may take, I put 21 days in here, okay? This is probably pretty typical. I'm not gonna say it takes longer. There's a lot of humans involved in supplementing. There's still a lot of communication that has to happen. And then you can finally schedule your job. You're already at day 51 to schedule a job, okay? You get the job built. Let's say it takes you 10 days to go through production. Maybe you're shorter production periods. I don't know. Maybe you're ahead of it. But let's just say typical, you're day 61. You QC the job on day 62. You get your final invoice submitted to the insurance company by day 65. The invoice gets approved by the insurance company. I put 7 days in there. Okay, we're being very optimistic here. The invoice finally gets approved by the insurance company. They mail a check. You get it 10 days later. You get your final payment by day 82.
Someone said, I'm at day 96.
Day 90, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, this number is subjective because it's insurance. There's so many things that can, you're talking mortgage companies, there's so many multiple trades. This is if it's just a roof, by the way. We're not talking multiple trades. We've got to reset a whole house. Like, there's all kinds of things that get in the way. And then you got appraisals and everything else. It could take 6 months to get a job all the way through. I've got deals that are in appraisal right now that I'm working, and they've been in appraisal for months because I'm waiting on opposing appraisers to get their crap together. So this process can be super slow. But this is if everything goes pretty smooth, you're there.
Siding, asbestos, or the 2-week hold after you deposit the check.
Oh,
da-da-da.
Yeah, all the different things, endorsements. There's a million things that can go wrong within this process. So, but let's just say on a good day, we get this job completed. Almost 3 months to put on a roof because of insurance. So
Which was cool to see that stacked up. Like that stood true for our attendees here too.
It's 100. It's totally industry standard. This is what we're used to. So I looked at this and I said, okay, there's got to be some places where I can find money or find days that we can try to trim it down. What is possible to be trimmed down? And there's only really 2 areas that you can focus on, because everything from the top, that top row is completely out of your control almost.
And I mean, a lot of the top, I mean, you can track leads.
You can track leads. There's maybe a few things, but for the most part, you're going to be waiting about 20 to 25 days for your first paperwork to come in, the first check to show up, right?
Do you want me to go to the next one?
Yeah, let's go to the next slide. So these were the 2 areas that we said, how do we make these 2 areas as efficient as possible? First one, obviously, we circled is supplementing. This is probably the most frustrating piece for not just contractors, but actually homeowners too. Because you got to think from a homeowner's perspective, because we looked at this from both sides. We want to say, okay, what's frustrating for us and what's frustrating for our customers? Our customers during this period, this is when they get really antsy, okay? Because they're like, do I really trust this guy? Some of you guys may have taken their first check. They're like, I hope that this dude shows up. Their news is going nuts because, by the way, the news is paid for by insurance companies. So they're like, this contractor, random dude from wherever, crackhead, decided to take someone's money and not put their roof on, or whatever happened down here. Like, there's all these things that could happen, and they're in the back of their mind, they're wondering, man, I really hope I picked a good contractor, right? So
it's
the homeowner's
home.
amazing.
It's your house.
It's your house.
Like
and and you've given this guy your money, and you're hoping that he does what he's supposed to do and that something crazy doesn't occur. So there's all this anxiety going on within the homeowner, and then the contractor's over here fighting for this, right? They're trying to get paid. They're trying to get things moved forward. I will say, when a homeowner sees an XBuild estimate, there's a lot less uneasiness at that point, because they're like, dude, this dude did his homework. And that's the thing, like when I write estimates, I write them in a way, and this is how we've trained the XBuild AI to do this too, in a way that a homeowner can read this and understand it. Because I expect that an adjuster has to be told everything like they're 5 years old anyways. So a homeowner should look at it and be like, well, this makes total sense. Like, I should have all these things on my roof.
You're educating the homeowner.
You're educating the homeowner and the insurance company. So it's reducing anxiety level on them, and then it's also speeding up your money because you're giving all that data up front. You're not wasting your time. You're being thorough. So it should hopefully shorten the amount of time it takes to get your supplements approved so that you can move the process forward. Now, this other circle that I put in here too, this is kind of a side note, but this is another area too that if you got really good at a lot of the tools that you guys have, you can really shrink that period as well, like with payments, with processes.
Yep.
You know, getting
automations. We've got a mix of attendees in here. We've got JobNimbus customers. We have people who aren't. So this is obviously like, I am biased because I work for JobNimbus, but there is a reason why I get excited about our platform, and it's because it is designed to automate a lot of those things, like with text to pay, invoicing, especially when it comes to like upgrades and things like that.
Totally side note on this. I sold some roofs last summer, and I was here for an event, and the team upstairs, Mitch and this team, got me hooked up with the JobNimbus account, and I went back to Colorado. I was selling for Paul Reed, and I said, you know, I'm gonna put all of my jobs through JobNimbus. And the biggest reason I did it was because I wanted the text automations. I was, you know, on lots of roofs where they had a lot of leads. There was a big hailstorm that hit out in Aurora. So I was out there, and it was mostly a Spanish-speaking community. So I had English text and I had Spanish text based on who the customer was that I was talking to in automation. So basically, as soon as a customer came in, they were getting, like, if I went and inspected their roof, they were getting text messages about adjuster meetings. They were getting text messages about, you know, the process that they'd filed the claim, all the different pieces of it. And then at the end of it, too, they were getting automations from me, too. Where's your check, basically? Where's our money?
Yes.
Like, we were, nicely nudging them through the process.
And even that speed to money cycle. Like, if you can just shorten that, because people will get a text and they'll just pay.
My goal was speed to money. And my goal was capacity. How do I increase my capacity as an individual salesperson? The best way is through automations. And then how do I speed up the process within that? That's also through automations. And so I utilize it a lot. So anyways, we talked a little about XBuild. XBuild and JobNimbus do integrate. We do have
It's shallow at the moment.
A shallow integration at the moment, but it's an integration nonetheless. The two platforms do speak to each other. What's really cool about it is all of the data that lives within XBuild, we push back to JobNimbus. So as soon as your report does come back, the report does go right into your JobNimbus job. So you have all those PDFs and the ESX files and everything there. It also lives on our platform. The communication goes back and forth as well. So we do push and pull messages. So like if there's a question or you guys have a revision or you have whatever, those communications also speak through between the two platforms. Yeah. So the goal here is to make it as streamlined as possible.
And I will say, just for those of you who are JobNimbus customers, this is something that has largely been built by XBuild using our API. So a lot of, just in terms of like our ability to help set you up for that right now is largely on the XBuild side of things.
Yeah, we have a team that can help you with that.
Yeah,
get that set up.
If this is something like, again, later on we'll have a QR code and a link, but if you're a JobNimbus customer and you're like, yes, I actually want to learn more about what this is like, if you just want to say XBuild and just put it in the chat, I always take this after the fact and I export it and I make sure people get to where they need to go. Again, those of you who are asking about like recordings, yes, we will send you a recording, and we'll get to questions here in just a few minutes. And just raise your hand and say XBuild in the chat if you're interested. And we're customers of both. Love to see it.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys are crushing it. Yes, definitely interested. In terms of JobNimbus, I don't have like a call to action slide at the end, but I do have in the links if you're interested in JobNimbus. The price is like dependent on how many users you have. So it's worth booking a demo. I don't want to pitch you JobNimbus here. That's not the nature of this. We really just want to talk about insurance.
Well, JobNimbus is an important piece though.
It is.
Because at the end of the day, like the data has to live somewhere. If your data is not stored in a centralized location, and I view JobNimbus as one of the best connectors of all your tech stack within the industry because it works with everything. You can connect it with your photo apps, you can connect it with XBuild, you can connect it with all the different pieces, and it could all live within that one ecosystem. That's what's so cool about it.
Miguel, I'll see what I can do. It would be great if JobNimbus had 2 free XBuilds a month, like Chase's partnership with DoorDash. I mean, well...
We know a little bit about that world.
Okay, well, this is awesome. I love this. JobNimbus has changed our business for the best. Love it. People are dropping XBuild. Okay, cool. So if you, at any point, are like, yeah, I want to know more, like, put it in here. We'll make sure it gets...
What's the next slide?
we're going to, I think we're just going to chat about, well, this is kind of what we've just said. Like,
Yeah.
JobNimbus helps automate the homeowner experiences too, for sure, through those like automations. So say you have updates about the insurance process, you can really like hold their hand. And yeah, JobNimbus contractors are able to store that important data, just exactly like you were saying, to ensure that's the success. And then you were kind of just going to touch on the data you need.
Really simply, like for what XBuild needs to really be as accurate. So remember AI, if anyone here uses AI, I will say like ChatGPT has changed the world in so many ways, the way people interact with technology. I have learned personally that I have become really good at learning how to ask the right questions.
Yes.
Because if you ask ChatGPT like something very generic, it's going to give you a very generic answer. But if you get really detailed and say, hey, based in this context and on these types of situations, and give me the top 5 ways I should be able to do this, whatever thing, it's going to give you a very detailed answer rather than you saying, like, how do I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? It's just going to be very...
It's prompt engineering.
It's prompt engineering. And it's the same thing with our systems. The AI it can't read your mind yet. Yet. No, I'm not... I've no knowledge to that's possible. So, but at the end of the day, like it's going to rely on your data inputs. The more data you give it, the better it is. If you give it, which by the way, it connects with photo apps and different things. So like you can give it a company cam link, for example, and it'll pull all the files. You don't have to upload each photo individually. There's a lot of smart ways to get data to us. But the better you guys are at collecting data in the field, the better that the AI is going to be able to write an estimate. I'd say that the biggest failure points that contractors have when they use XBuild is they're not giving us the right data. And we're having to go back and say, hey, this is what the AI has done because it's based on what you've given it. It doesn't have the full context. Can you give us a little bit more context and we can rewrite it again to make it better? And that's usually where people have to learn how to collect data. And so getting the right data over, we don't require a pre-existing loss. We can write with just photos and measurements. We do accept any type of measurement report that's on the marketplace. It could be GAS measurements, it could be hover, it could be roof scope.
Just ask hover.
Yeah, it could be any type of, as long just give us the PDF and the AI can extract the measurements off that PDF. It does need the full measurements. Some people give us like the light version, like EagleView's quick squares or whatever they have, that doesn't give us like the complete measurement report. It's kind of hard for us to figure out valley links if we don't know what the valley links are. So like there's stuff like that. Now we do offer the contractor the option to where we actually will order the EagleView measurement report on your behalf. We do default to EagleView, and the reason we do that, a lot of people ask us like, well, can you order on my whatever account? The reason why we default to EagleView is really simple. Is because we also do have a supplementing portion of our platform. And we track how often insurance companies kick back outside measurement reports. And by all standards, like when it comes to insurance work, EagleView is recognized on both sides very well. The other one that I would say would probably fit that category a little bit less than EagleView is probably hover. And so I always just say, like, if you want a good experience, those are the top 2 measurement reports that will get you through. The last thing you want is for an insurance company to kick back your estimate and be like, well, you gave us this roof report and we don't trust it
and recognize
for
it.
less of. It's subjective. So if we go in with the EagleView, we have a better shot at just pushing that thing through and getting it approved quicker. So that's been our take on that. But you don't have to use EagleView though. You can use whatever measurement reports you want. It's the system's agnostic to that. It's just what we default to.
I've got a lot of questions.
All right, let's answer some questions.
Ready?
Yeah.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple things. We can just kind of rapid fire. Do we need to annotate the photos?
No, you don't. So the AI is actually looking at the photos individually. So it's looking at pipe jacks, it's looking at ridge cap, it's looking at drip edge, it's looking at hail damage. And I know on those photos we had, there was circles on them where the contractor had taken photos of the hail and circled it and everything. It's actually not reading the circles though. It's actually looking at the shingles. The only thing that the AI cannot do with a photo is it cannot tell if a laminate shingle is like a impact resistant laminate shingle versus a regular standard like laminate shingle. So that's the one thing. If you run into like an impact resistant shingle, make sure that you tell us, hey, this is a class 4 Malarkey Legacy or OC Flex or whatever it is, so that we can make sure that we use the correct line item when the AI writes the estimate.
Okay. There were a few questions about just like adjustments. So
Yeah.
like any estimate adjustments.
Yeah,
like,
so
can you change something?
once the report's completed and you're on the platform, there's a button that says if you have a revision, you can just basically click that revision button, type out whatever revisions you want the AI to do, and it'll kick it back into queue again and rewrite it again. So there's a really easy way to do a revision, or you can, if you order just a report, you're like, I want to send it to insurance, there's a button you press and it sends it directly to the insurance and gets the process started.
Actually, before we go any further, I want to leave. I'm not even going to do the checkout because you're already engaged in the chat. But this is, I'm going to make this big here. This is for your first free report. I'm just going to leave this here for a minute while we answer a couple more. For those of you who said, I want my second one, you said it out loud.
I will do it. So send us a message.
I will export.
We'll get that to us.
I will make sure it all gets to him. So
I don't know how long it'll take her to do that, though.
Well, don't doubt me. I'm on your side, you guys. A couple of things. Can this work for commercial as well?
So we do have commercial capabilities, but it's commercial still in the learning phase with the AI. So roof siding and gutters came out earlier this year as 100% AI. So we've got the AI to do roof siding and gutters. It took about 4,000 reports to do that. Commercial, we're still training the data sets on that. That's on our roadmap for this year. But it's a huge question people ask, and we are working on that. But it's something we can handle, but it's not as AI intensive. It might take a little longer.
Someone just said, can you supplement in the state of Minnesota with the new laws? I'm actually not familiar with the new laws.
Okay, so
we can, if this is a bigger conversation.
Yeah, this is a bigger conversation. But we do have some supplement capabilities within Minnesota. This is a much larger conversation than that.
It sounds good. We'll put a pin.
Put a pin in that one and send that to me.
Someone said, okay, the difference. What is the difference between XBuild and SumoQuote? I'm 100% new to roofing. This plays in too because
difference.
It is a massive difference for sure. And so SumoQuote exists as a standalone product, but ultimately it is now built into JobNimbus because then you can automate, you can have your whole process from lead all the way through sales and down through payments. It's that kind of your entire process. But you can explain the difference.
Yeah, I mean, we're an AI product, so we're a little bit different. In a SumoQuote, there's still a lot of human input that has to happen, even though it's templated based. It's going to generate a beautiful estimate. We use SumoQuote a lot when I had my company for retail. We used it for everything, but every job we showed up with a SumoQuote in hand. We sold a lot of deals that way, even if it had storm damage. We never assumed that the homeowner was going to file an insurance claim. We asked them, how do you want to pay? Which was a really weird thing that no one else would ask that question. Every contractor before us would be like, well, let's go file a claim. And maybe that homeowner didn't want to file a claim. You'd be surprised. We always said, here's what it costs to replace your roof. How do you want to pay? And the amount of time homeowners said, I just want to buy a freaking roof. Cool, here you go. This is what it costs. If they said we want to go to insurance, then we'll go to insurance. But we gave them the option. We use SumoQuote as our leader for that. We had an estimate ready to go.
Which now could be the sales experience.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's SumoQuote is a great presentation tool. It's a phenomenal way to present beautiful estimates, but it's really retail based. XBuild, on the other hand, is a AI tool. We use Xactimate or Stability to write these estimates. So we're basically, this is catered towards an insurance project. So
let me look here. Oh, there were a couple of questions about the size of the output, just based on like
like photos and stuff.
No, it was in the chat, just like it's 23 megs or whatever.
Yeah.
That insurance will accept when you submit.
So the way that the output is set up, when you actually get your report back, you get that full report. Sometimes the reports are broken down. If the photos, usually, like if you give us a lot of photos, that usually gets broken into its own report so that you can go around that. But you also, like, when you see it, the building code report that you'll get within the report is like a summary of the building code. The actual building code is like 25 pages long. You get all of those reports, but they're separate PDFs within the system. So you get the main master PDF that has almost everything, and then you have all these other PDFs that you can also attach. So if you have to send multiple emails, that's why it's designed that way.
Okay, and yes, recording will come. Every single one of you will get a follow-up email, so open it, because it will have this. If you didn't get it before, it will have the recording, it will have a couple other resources in it. I'm just looking through, is XBuild connected up to Restoration AI in regards to the proper waste factors?
So we're not connected with Restoration AI. And I'm a huge Restoration AI proponent. I've been pushing that for years. I love Mark Craney and his team. They've done a great job with that. I believe in it. I also know, though, from an industry standpoint, we're doing speed to money here. Restoration AI can kind of slow you down sometimes if you're dealing with it. You can give us a Restoration AI report, and we can apply those waste factors within the system. Just have to put it within your parameters and let us know that's what you guys want to do. But we're not directly connected with Restoration AI. Two very different products. We're trying to go the path of least resistance when it comes to supplementing, because like I said, speed to money is usually more important than trying to get an extra 6% on waste. Although it could be, true waste is true waste, and we can have that conversation all day long. But we focus on, we do go off of Eagle View suggested waste. A lot of times that's kind of where we'll alter waste factors. But yeah, I mean, if you give it to us, I'm sure we can implement that waste into that report.
Okay, I have 2 more super
Cool.
rapid fire. Commercial.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We did.
Yes,
Commercial
commercial's
we did.
coming.
Oh, right. Commercial's coming. 200 photos. This is what I'm talking about. 200 photos.
Yeah.
Will the AI be overwhelmed
Yes,
by this?
no,
Okay,
no,
great.
it's AI.
That's it.
I've given it, the report that you guys saw there, that was 350 photos.
Okay.
So,
And is, okay, no, that answered that one. I'm just looking through and just seeing, there were some in the chat too that I know got lost in there. Also, I know we've just got a minute left. Just for all of you, if you want, there is that QR code and there's a link down below. I've got the chat. I will be exporting it. If you use Sumo, if you're looking to move from Sumo to JobNimbus, again, click that demo link. There is a migration that is going to be amazing for transferring your layouts and templates over, so that this is not a recreating it again kind of process. But book a demo. How do we talk to you or someone about XBuild? If you raise your hand and you said XBuild in the chat, we will make sure that you are contacted.
Yeah, we can get a hold of you guys. We have a team.
And we will honor these things. And then one of the other questions was, how do I buy this white sweater? And unfortunately, this has
been a very touchy subject within this office.
Yes.
I have been begging for this sweater for months.
Go to Super Crew. So go to the Super Crew, someone says. So Crew is happening this week. If you are a JobNimbus customer, we have Crew events. We're having one this week. We will be having more. We will have the JobNimbus Solution Summit again, which honestly you'll probably come to. And
I did not expect to get this sweater.
So
I'm just going to be straight up.
We have amazing events where you get to come and spend time with our team. And anyways, it's amazing. Okay, lots of XBuild in here. This is great. Yes, there will be a recording. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
No, we're a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of JobNimbus. I use it.
Yeah.
I have it, and I'm just gonna say we're excited to partner with you guys and to work with you in this way. And I truly believe that in the future this will get better, and we'll find ways to make this even better for contractors. And that's the whole goal. That's JobNimbus's goals. That's our goal.
We need a deeper integration. We need this now. You'd be unstoppable.
You're asking the wrong person. Okay.
We don't make these decisions, you guys, but
Yes.
we can relay the request.
Scream it from the rooftops.
Someone said, really cool to see your perspective. I would agree. Thank you, John. You the man.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all so much for joining. Wait, you will have an email in your inbox here in the next day or two. And yes, we will get in touch. So just give us a minute. We have to kind of dissect through all of this amazingly engaging chat today.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hopefully it was good.
I'm grateful for having you here. This is amazing. Okay, we will see you guys next time.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.